Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, Nummy Ranty Flat Earth, No Globe, who else we got? Flat As, Kyle, Arwin, and Alan, and Plain Truth. Good to have you all.
Hello.
Yo, yo, yo.
Hello, what's up, fellas?
Good to have you.
Hello.
So did you get the official explanation when you were in the break, Nathan, why they don't account for it?
So that they can con you. I kept giving you the same answer to con idiots like you into thinking they live on a sphere.
And what's the con? What's the long game?
The con is that you don't live on a sphere.
And what's the advantage of conning me?
To take control of your life.
Control.
Yeah, absolute control. That's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to con you.
Control, lots of money scams. Lots of them.
Yeah, money is one
into
aspect.
Into the design of how infrastructure works, communications, space exploration, giant budgets, lots of scams.
None of which has any effect on my life.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
it does.
You don't use a mobile
You're paying
phone?
taxes for it.
You don't use TV,
Pay
you don't
any
use a mobile
taxes, I'm
phone,
retired.
don't pay
Well,
taxes.
maybe not you, but your children, if you have
At
any.
some point, you pay taxes.
Didn't mind paying taxes.
Well,
Just
not
told
when
us
they're
you were
stealing your money.
unaffected. Now we've just listed a million ways you're affected.
Not really.
Oh, right. Now it's just denial. Nah. I can accept taxes. I can accept that mobile phone companies charge me for satellites being launched. I can accept that all my telecommunications and television.
You don't believe satellites now?
No, I don't believe space is real.
No.
We've had a picture of Earth up on the last show, and I asked
Well,
PMARS to explain why there was a black area that is alleged to be a vacuum next to clouds, fluffy light clouds that float in the sky, and yet apparently don't get sucked off into the blackness of space that is a vacuum. So, no, I don't think that is real. That entity that they say satellites are in is not real in my world. It just doesn't exist.
I'm still waiting to see a satellite traverse the moon.
Well, it seems like everything's getting sucked off but me.
Well, you're apparently too old.
I got the
That's-
joke.
That's too bad, man.
Did you see Jism's new video where he saw ISIS across the moon?
Or something past the moon. What you call the ISS is a
It's what
tin
he
can
called
in
it.
space.
He said it.
Again, back to this space thing, this vacuum area that doesn't seem to suck the clouds off the planet. So, no, what you call the ISS, a tin can with men in it, was not what he saw. He saw a black smudge, very out of focus, as you would say. Almost as out of focus as every other capture of the ISS I see. So that smudge apparently has got men in it, has it, Alan?
Of course it has.
But it's a smudge, Alan. An out of focus smudge. How can you claim that a smudge has got men in it? It's ludicrous.
You
We
see
haven't
the
discussed
window?
like combustion and thrust in space. Has anybody ever actually discussed and figured out how that works?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It's impossible. There's like real.
Do you remember in
real
Gravity?
proof.
Do you remember in Gravity when Sandra Bullock, she needed to use the, I think it was
Are you
Gravity,
referencing a film?
where she used the compressed gas canisters to control her way around space to capture the bloke.
Fictional film.
Yeah,
Look,
it's,
no, the
it's more
concept is
believable,
that
that
space has
film.
it's a vacuum, has nothing. There's no way that
I agree.
there's nothing to push off of. It's impossible.
Yeah, I agree.
And there's proof I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's a guy named Cody's Labs, YouTuber, who actually has many videos of that, where he's trying to produce thrust and combustion inside of his own vacuum chamber. It doesn't work.
Yeah, he pushes the ball. What a moron.
Yeah, I don't know. It blows me away. There's way too many holes and way too many proofs to debunk this whole concept of space and space travel and satellites. I just don't understand. It's cognitive dissonance. People don't want to accept it.
One interesting anecdote about NASA's rockets and space claim is that I've at least seen it argued by Globers that in order for rockets to work in space, it requires this special kind of Bell nozzle, like the Laval nozzle, I think it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're like a normal rocket engine, you know, that's meant for an atmosphere-based rocket wouldn't work in space, but they have some kind of fancy, like superheated rocket technology that's specifically designed for space. But then in the early 80s, there was this brief period where they had this thing called the MMU, the Man Maneuvering Unit, right? Where it was basically like a suit that was like an extension of the spacesuit that allowed an individual astronaut to use little nitrogen rockets to propel themselves around, you know, so that they could like repair satellites and stuff. Have you guys ever seen that?
Yeah, like in James Bond.
Right. But that contradicts this idea that you need this Laval nozzle, right? That you need to use superheated gas that's going at, you know, some crazy speed or whatever. I mean, it's that explanation.
The weight's quite different.
How's the weight quite different? No, the idea is that.
Are you saying a man's weight and a rocket's weight? There's no.
But that's not what the argument's about. They're saying that. I've just heard it argued by Globers, at certain Globers, that it requires this special kind of nozzle that, you know, does a bunch of. I can't remember all the details, but it's like.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. The concept is that it's creating the ability to have combustion inside of a vacuum by like some sort of mixing of chemicals during combustion, but it's ludicrous. It's insane. It still has nothing to push off of.
Right, but then it's contradicted. Like their explanation there is contradicted by the fact that they just use like compressed nitrogen gas with no combustion in order to propel the MMU.
Right. I've actually heard somebody on here already talk about it in another live stream. The concept of, you know, pressurized spacesuits in a vacuum. Not only that, but the radiation that's constantly surrounding you. You would have to be in like a 7-foot lead spacesuit made out of rigid something in order to even survive out there. And they're in these like flimsy things that when you actually start to break down their bullcrap, it just makes no sense anymore. And I mean, they get egg on their face every single time they open their mouth or produce an article or claim they see another star system somewhere in the billion galaxies. You know, it's all fantasy. A lot of people don't want to let go of it, though.
The idea that rockets can work in a vacuum is pure fantasy, right? And it all just stops right there. That's just
everything else.
NASA.
There's a domino effect from there. It all falls down.
Yeah, if space is a vacuum, which it can't be, then rockets wouldn't work in it anyway. Right. So the whole thing is just it's just lies on top of lies on top of lies. And science fiction.
Well, we were touching on the whole why of it. I know it's been discussed plenty of times. You say it's control, whatever, you know, purposes of black budget operations through stealing tax money, funneling it through whatever. Has anybody actually discussed going further than that? Like, I mean,
I think it's just about creating a grand narrative, a unified narrative, so that we all live inside, that we all share some sort of belief system. Right?
Where are all the whistleblowers if they've got 75,000 employees?
Can I just say, sorry,
because they have 75,000 employees.
Gents, can I just interrupt a sec rudely? I don't mean to be rude. I apologise.
Well, you're always rude.
I'm just chatting to Philip Weinberg in the background because apparently he's in work and he can't join the panel. But I've been trying to get through his head that this angular size reduction caused by perspective is the only time that you should apply the hidden value. You should not apply the hidden value on Metabunk to the actual size. You should only apply it to the apparent size because things do get smaller as over distance. And I've literally got to the point where he now understands. And he said, okay, so you want Metabunk to calculate the angular size of the object as that would be as that would be seen. And I said, or I want it to state clearly that the application of the hidden value should only be to the apparent height of the target, not the actual height. Then it doesn't mislead anybody. And listen to his response, right? And I quote, I think that it is not as useful for people. It would be nice if you could get the angular size so you could compare that directly with photos, etc. I couldn't agree anymore. Phil says, as a physicist, he says, I think that is not as useful for people. Well, he's bound to say that because he believes we live on a little spinning ball. But it's a lie, it's deceit, and it's misleading. But Philip thinks that it's not as useful for people. Well, what use for it to people is it if they put in the wrong height value and it gives them a perception that we live on a ball? How stupid is that, Philip? Come on. Sorry, carry on, gents.
Just ask Philip if he's going to go back and redress all of his previous models and account for angular size change. Because up until now, he thought he'd modelled them nicely. A bit like Wiggles thought he'd modelled them nicely until we pointed out this problem. So I look forward to seeing his new model of the Isle of Man, for example. Sorry, just try to contain yourself, Alan. Your ejaculations aren't needed. So, yeah, I'd like to see the redressed, modelled, with an angular size reduction Isle of Man picture, as Phil was quick to assert that it was absolutely perfect. But presumably, now it's been explained to him, and people don't need to know this, but physicists do. So I'd like to see your remodelled version with an angular size change. Thank you.
Okay, Nathan, could you just share my screen for 1 second? I just want to... Okay, I'm just going to show something here. Okay, so yeah, I've heard it argued by ballers that the Laval nozzle or something like it is necessary for propulsion in space. This is a claim that I've heard made by many ballers, right? So it says, most spacecraft today are propelled by forcing gas from the back rear of the vehicle at very high speed through a supersonic de Laval nozzle, right? So a lot of them, you know, like I'm saying, a lot of ballers have argued that this is a requirement and that this somehow enables a rocket to work in space where it otherwise probably wouldn't. Or, you know, that's why rockets on Earth, once they get up to an area of the atmosphere that's thin enough, will stall, right? But then if you look over here, this is the page for the manned maneuvering unit. Typical MMU velocity capability was about 80 feet per second or 25 meters per second, right? So well below the a supersonic speed. So just interesting that that explanation that they have is not consistent with the technology that they claim to have used.
When do they have both thrusters active? Like they switch to another or something when they reach low atmospheric conditions or space?
Yeah, that's what they say. That, like, I think the booster rockets that they use on, you know, within the atmosphere are like one kind of rocket, and then when they get out to space, then they have a special sort of rocket engine that's just for space, right? The supersonic.
Right, they got a special rocket that creates I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut a freaking wall in space. That makes sense.
Yeah,
exactly. They create an atmosphere in space by using a special type of thruster.
Yeah, that's what they say. But then that's contradicted when you look at this manned maneuvering unit, which was only used on 3 space shuttle missions in 1984. It seemed like they kind of dipped their toe in there, but then we're like, oh, wait a minute, this is not really consistent with our story, so we better pull back on that, right? But
but nobody's going to ask the questions anyway. Nobody thinks that hard about why it all happens or how it's possible.
Well, that's why I'm bringing
flat Earth stuff came up.
Well, that's why I'm bringing it up, right? No, I'm just saying they're pretty careful. I mean, no, people. I think they've covered their bases pretty carefully. You know, like when you start to look into this, it's like, you know, to find some.
Oh, nope. I think he's dropped there.
Nathan, would you mind sharing my screen?
He was on to something.
Well, can I just say something before we go any further? It's a bit of Paul on the Plane. If you guys have ever heard of him, I was talking to him yesterday, and he said that he would be happy to do a presentation on Nathan's show at some point.
Woohoo!
So it'll probably be to do with the NASA moon landings, because he does have quite a lot of information on that. So it will be. He did a presentation on Globebusters, so it'd be nice to get him on the show. He said he'd do it.
What did you say his name was?
pull on the plane.
Pull on, okay.
Nathan, you just share my screen.
Yeah, you are.
I'm just chatting to Phil Weinberg, and he says basically he accepts that the building should be, or the target building or whatever, should be reduced down to its apparent size rather than its actual size. But he does bring a valid point here, and I'm going to question it now just so that we can address it. He says, I said, Phil, if you're intellectually honest, you can only agree that this is the apparent height the hidden is applied to. And he says, sure, if we scale the hidden value down too, the hidden value on the Metabunk curve calculator, he wants to scale that down. And I said, it cannot be applied to the actual height unless the distance to the object is 0. Agreed. So you can also scale down the hidden value too. So what he's saying is, if he agrees that we have to scale down the apparent size to whatever distance it is that you're looking at, but he wants the scale of the hidden value scaling down too. And I'm thinking about that objectively, and I'm thinking, is he right? And I don't think he's right. I think that geometrically speaking, that would not scale down.
Right. So from a geometric point of view, the Earth being of a fixed radius has a certain amount of obstruction that will get in the way of things in the distance. This is something that Arwin's been banging over the last 3 days, constantly trying to get it in, which is to say that the hump that they claim is between you and the thing you're observing is also subject to perspective, and that leaves them screwed.
Yeah,
it does. It
Yeah,
does.
but
leave
they
them
don't have a constant R, right? I mean, you have a picture showing a perfect sphere. You've got a leading physicist saying that it's bulged and oblate and partially pear-shaped. So even they can't get their shape right. So how can they possibly know or have a calculation?
So to address Phil here, he's saying if you're going to use the apparent size of the target object, should we not scale down the hidden? But I think the hidden is already scaled down because of the geometric math that's been applied. Anybody got any dissenting views?
Well, no, the only scaling down would be by virtue of refraction. But geometrically, it doesn't matter what the atmosphere is doing. If there's a wall in your way, there's a wall in your way. You know, yeah, you can claim that light's bending around it, but it doesn't make any difference from a geometric point of view. If there's a wall in the way, there's a wall in the way.
Well, you can just pretend like it's not there, like the Van Allen radiation belts.
Yeah, and the bulge can be treated as a hill, right? In terms of this angular size thing. Like the bulge can be viewed as being like a mountain itself. So yeah, it should be subject to law of perspective, angular size treatment.
Yeah, like I say, it's a dark day for globeheads because at present, all of the globeheads have been using these maths wrong. They're not applying an angular size change. Now, frankly, I don't care how they fudge the maths from this point on. They're going to fudge them because this is a big deal. Like I say, it's a dark day for globeheads. You've been using your maths wrong. You're using an orthographic view to represent a perspective view, and it's totally disingenuous because it accounts for something that is a tiny little dot on the horizon as being 1,000 foot high, like you were right next to it holding a tape measure in your hand saying, yep, that's 1,000 foot, all right. Well, no, not in the distance it isn't. Its angular size reduces. But that's what you've been doing, and that's what you've been claiming the Earth is a sphere with. So, bad news for globeheads, I'm afraid. As much as Alan and various other disingenuous globeheads say, it's not needed. Yeah, afraid so, guys. We do actually deal with an angular size reduction in real life. That's what happens when you press a click button on a camera. It captures that angular size change, and that's what you've been comparing to this third point of view. Wrong. So you're all screwed. What's the
official explanation of why they don't?
I don't care, you stupid little man. Why are you trying to strawman us with what's the motivation? You've got it wrong. The maths don't work, dickhead. So who cares what their motivation is? Ask them. Write a letter to Mick West. You're going to do that instead of asking me, Alan. You're going to write to Mick West and say, why the hell have you led us astray so badly? How come you've let this guy, Nathan Oakley, hold our toes to the fire with how unbelievably stupid we are to apply the wrong mathematics? Why is it that we're applying a perspective view to the world and only applying an orthographic view when we try and calculate out curvature. Ask Mick West.
You don't know, though, do you?
Ask Mick West. It's his calculator.
Hazard a guess.
Ask Mick West. Why am I guessing for the motivation of some Irish twat who has manipulated our world in order to deceive boneheads like you? I don't care what his motivation is. All that matters is he's wrong. Dead wrong. And every single person who's ever put a value into that calculation has not accounted for an angular size reduction, Alan. They're all wrong. Every single time you've claimed a victory using that calculator, you're wrong. It should be much smaller. It should be much further behind this massive mountain, this curve. And yet, there's been victories claimed, so it's a very dark day. And we'll do it. We'll go through all of these observations before you start interrupting me again. We'll go through them and we'll show you just how wrong your world is. Because I've only got to open my eyes to see that perspective is a thing. That perspective is reality, unlike this third position, this non-viewer function calculation. That's what you're using. A calculation that is not for viewing functionality. Do you get it, Alan? Do we need the cows out again? The small cow and the big cow in the distance?
Nathan uses stick to delivering fruit and veg.
Yeah, oh, it's back to ad homs now. Yeah, a fruit and veg delivery salesman is ripping this Irish prick who's got a website that deludes people into thinking they're on a sphere. I'm ripping him and his methodology and his mathematics a new one in front of an audience.
You can't even explain why it's not included.
I don't care why he's done it. He's done it and he's wrong. That's all that matters. And I'm going to point it out time and time again. His metabunk calculation works from the side. It doesn't work through the eyes of the person who's making the observation or the camera that you are comparing it to. So every time someone has compared a photograph and used that calculation, they are wrong, Alan. Wrong in a massive way, thanks to Mick West. So if I had been in a position, stop interrupting me. If I was in a position where I'd asserted the Earth is a sphere using that calculation, I'd want to contact Mick West and say, you've made me look very silly, Mick West. Why have you got it so wrong on this calculation, Mick West? Why are you getting us to use an orthographic view that is not a viewer function for this calculation, Mick West? Go and ask him.
Why doesn't perspective work on...
What's with the croaky voice? Yeah? Go and ask Mick West.
I'm asking you.
Don't ask me about Mick West's bullshit calculation to prove a bullshit presuppositional R value and prove curve that is not in existence. Ask him why he doesn't account for perspective. Ask him why he puts this in orthographic view. Ask him why he takes measurement from equidistant values of both observer and target. Ask him why he's lying to the world.
Why doesn't perspective work with the sun?
Who cares? We're talking about objects that we take photographs of, and then we use a metabunk calculation provided by the globeheads like Rumpus and you to prove to idiots who are deluded and under a spell that they are on a sphere, and it doesn't work correctly. It takes an orthographic perspective as opposed to a perspective view. Therefore incorrect. Therefore targets remain equidistant. Therefore 1,000-foot mountain that you could have a tape measure with 1,000 foot written on it remains at 1,000 foot when it's 30 miles away. And what do they do with all that bags of error? Well, they convince you it's curved, don't they? We do have things going into the horizon. They disappear because of perspective. They converge at the horizon. No boats are going over any curve, but Mick West will tell you that, and he'll back it up with a calculation that removes you from the observation itself. So no one's watching boats do anything when they use his calculator. They're standing side on to someone else doing the experiment. Do you get it?
Why doesn't the sun work then?
Oh, shut up about your sun. You don't even know what it is.
Do I need to know?
Yes!
I don't know what's in this gin, but it's rather nice.
Oh, really? Well, what we know now, unequivocally, is Mick West is a liar. He's trying to lie to the world about how it is. He is lying. If you want to ask me again about his motivation for lying to people, I'm just going to tear you a new one again, Alan.
No,
yeah?
you didn't.
Point out that you're about the metaphorical equivalent of Dougal from Father Ted, who doesn't
didn't
understand
tell
that
me
a toy
anything. You
cow
can't answer
is
the question.
small and a real cow in the distance is relatively the same size because of perspective.
You can't answer
You
the question, though, can you?
are a retard, Alan.
You can't answer the question.
You can't understand that cows in the distance get smaller because of perspective, and that's a real thing in life. Your calculation for a globe earth that you believe in, your religious belief, is backed up by that calculation, and every single globehead who has ever used that calculation was wrong because it's being applied as a viewer function for pictures they compare it to, and it's not a calculation of viewing function. It is a once removed 90-degree angle keeping the observer and the target equidistant. It's a lie. It's a magic trick. It's a way of fooling people like you who are slightly retarded and don't understand the Dougal example with cows. It's a way of fooling you retards into thinking they're on a sphere.
It's a model.
Yeah, we don't live on a model. We live on the world. The flat plane of our existence is not a model, you idiot.
Well, I suppose
That's why models aren't scientific proof of anything, because often Irishmen get them wrong.
You're calling Irish people thick?
I'm calling Mick West thick, and he's Irish. So Mick West, the thick Irishman, has got this wrong.
Oh, you racist.
No, Mick West is Irish. He is Irish, and he has got this wrong. That is a matter of fact. He has messed up this calculation. Instead of doing a perspective view, he's done an orthographic view and kept objects equidistant to maintain their height value. Silence. You want to call me a racist again?
No, I'm just waiting for the explanation.
What, from Mick West? Have you asked him yet? Are you typing out an email to this disingenuous Irish idiot?
No, I'm waiting for an answer from you.
I don't have an answer. It's not my calculation. Why, is this part of your retardation? Not only do you not understand perspective, you don't understand that it's not me lying to you. Yeah? Is it just shoot the messenger time? I'm telling you that you've been lied to. I'm not the liar. You understand that?
I think you are.
Really? Well, I'm just telling you matter of fact. Mick West keeps the observer out of the equation by putting you equidistant to both observation point and observation, thus negating the need to account for perspective, a very real factor in our world, Alan. Something you don't understand after being given a cow example from Father Ted that is used to highlight the retarded nature of one of the cast.
Alan, you said that you think Nathan is lying to you. The last words out your mouth were, "I think you are." Why do you think that Nathan's lying to you?
Because he's putting on a show and entertainment, and it serves his purpose.
So this sits in the category of education. I'm trying to educate retards like you, Alan.
Trust me, there's no motivation to be a flat earther. Completely ridiculed at every corner. And
don't forget, hit the super chat. Nathan needs some new shoes.
How do you know he needs new shoes?
Oh?
I've already
could use some new shoes.
Yeah, needs a new pub shoe. He's after a brown pub shoe. Hit the super chat.
So, Alan, about that lie, what is the lie that you think Nathan's making?
He's always lying about everything.
What about now?
Okay.
I'll give you my example again. Objects in the distance get smaller. Yeah? There's an angular size change with distance that is not accounted for on the metabunk calculation. It removes you from the observation and keeps the target and the observer equidistant, therefore maintaining the height values of things like mountains in the distance, Alan. Now you tell me where I'm lying.
Give me the official explanation of why they're not accounting for it.
That's not my calculator. I'm the messenger of the deceit. I am not the deceiver. So, I'll ask again, for the retarded member of the panel known as Alan, why are you asking me this question and not Mick West?
I'm asking you the question because...
Shout out to Dank for the super chat. Thank you for reminding my audience to super chat, Alan. I really am grateful.
I'm asking you the question because to understand why they're not asking for it, you must reverse the logic.
I don't have to do anything. I open my eyes and I see a perspective view of the world. Then I take a picture of it. Then globe heads come along and present a calculation and say, nah, it should be hidden by Earth curve. Now we discover that they don't account for the very real fact that perspective does make things in the distance smaller.
No, it doesn't.
Sorry. You are clearly a retard, like Dougal on Father Ted. So we'll go through the Father Ted example again. Father Ted shows Dougal a toy cow that's about 2 inches high, and he explains to Dougal that this cow is small. Then he points out the window at a real cow and says that cow, which looks relatively the same size, is far away. That is known as perspective, also known, Alan, as angular size change. You can observe this by opening your eyes when you wake in the morning or taking a photograph of absolutely anything ever.
But Nathan, why is this sun the same?
Sorry, why have you not addressed the fact that you said that we don't have to account for this angular size change?
Is the sun the same size?
Not the sun. You've just said we don't have to account for angular size change, and I've given you the retarded example suitable for a 5-year-old, and you're moving on to the sun. Now I'm asking you why this calculation is not included, even though you can observe it simply by waking up and opening your eyes in the morning.
Because it's not required.
It is required. It is a very real fact of life. So, do we need to give you the cows example again, Alan, so that you understand that perspective is very much a factor in the real world? Do you need the cows example again, retard? Or are you going to tell me that we don't have to factor it in?
The sun can be viewed getting smaller on horizon as it goes over. I've seen it many times in videos.
That's lensing due to atmospheric conditions.
I want an answer from Alan. Why aren't they accounting for the angular size reduction at distance in this calculation? 3 times you've asserted it's not necessary.
You're just twisting it up, man.
You have asserted 3 times that it is not necessary to account for this angular size change. Now I want you to tell me why.
You tell me.
You are the one who asserted it, you retard. After me asserting again and again how the example with retarded cows, just for the idiot on the panel, works in the real world simply by opening our eyes. Now, I've given you the example for the retard. Now I want you to tell me why that's not important when calculating observations at distance. You tell me.
What do you think?
I don't know. You asserted this retarded, stupid statement because absolutely it's important. It's a very real fact of life, Alan. We learn this when we learn how perspective works in about the 5th grade. We understand that things in the distance get smaller. I want to know why you think it's not important to calculate for it.
I asked first. Answer the question.
No, you asserted that it's not important or relevant to calculate. Why?
No, that's not true. I asked you why they're not using it in the calculation.
It's not my calculation. You're just dancing around this with the same circle of shit questions. I'm not Mick West. I've not screwed this up. I'm not stupid. He has published this stupid, idiotic, incorrect way of assessing a photograph, not me. Now I want to know why you think, like Mick West, it is not important. Big shout out to Passion Reflections. So yeah, why isn't it important?
For helping Nathan with his shoes.
Why isn't it important to put in this equation?
I asked you.
You asserted that it wasn't relevant.
That's not what I said at all. Do
You
you
said
want me
it's
to
not
repeat
needed.
what I said?
You said it's
You
not
said it
needed.
wasn't necessary.
Necessary,
No, I
there
didn't
you
say
go.
that at all.
Yeah,
Yes,
you did.
those are your
No, I
exact
didn't.
words.
Yeah, you did, Alan, several
No, I
times.
didn't.
Yes, you did,
Lying.
Alan, several times, and we
No,
can
I
play it
didn't.
back in the
I said-
hangout. If
Listen,
you like.
I said, what do you think the official explanation
No,
is?
that's a different
No.
question. And I've said it a million times. I'm not the idiot who's put this maths in front of a lot of globe heads that now look very stupid because it doesn't calculate for pictures. It doesn't perform a viewing function, as Rumpus pointed out yesterday. So because it doesn't perform viewing functions, whenever somebody's compared it to a photograph, obviously a glober trying to prove globe Earth, they've got it wrong, Alan. Now we want to know why you think they've still got it right and that perspective isn't needed.
No, what I want to know is why is he not including it?
Why do I not think, why is he not
because
included? That's
being-
not even a correctly formulated question. That doesn't even make any sense, Alan. Try and formulate a decent question. If it's the same question, which is, why have I done this when I'm not the one who's made this calculation, then I'll just point you in Mick West's direction again.
Tony, let's me and you chat.
No, answer his question.
Why do you feel it is not necessary to account for an angular size change, even though every person who can see accounts for it every single time they open their eyes? Why do you think it is not necessary to include that, Alan? You have asserted this.
What's the official explanation?
No, if you ask me again why it's being explained by me when I am not the person who's made it, I will just eject you. So I'm asking you why you have asserted, like Ruhif, you're just dancing around this question. Like Wiggles, who came back in and eventually disclaimed that he didn't include it, with a sob story and a violin in the background. Yeah, I want you to now either explain it, or I'll just have to kick you out because you can't explain it.
Alan, Mick West did not respond to it. He did not have an official explanation as to why he didn't
Has
include
Mick West been
it.
asked?
He's deceiving people on purpose. He's holding back information.
Has Mick West been asked?
That's just supposition, though, are we?
No, it's not. It's factually based on his empirical evidence or his mathematics in his calculator.
Yeah, the evidence is on screen if you went to Metabunk Curve Calculator today. It's still saying this, Alan. It's
Who
still
asked me
leading
then?
you globeheads astray.
Which one of you
But
lot
you
asked me?
are backing him. That's why I'm asking you why you're backing him and saying that it doesn't
No,
need
which
to be
one of you
accounted
lot
for.
asked Mick so that you could say those things you've just said?
No, you're backing him. You've said it's not necessary. You asserted that. I didn't create the calculator,
No,
but
I
you
didn't. I
did
said,
assert
give me
it
the
wasn't
official
necessary.
explanation for it not being included.
That wasn't what you said.
Yes, it was.
What you said was it doesn't need to be included, and Nathan's asking you why do you think it
No,
doesn't?
if you rewind an hour, I mean, we've not gone very far in an hour.
No, you said it wasn't accounted for, and it doesn't.
No,
That's what you said.
no.
Yeah, you did. You said it wasn't necessary.
Give me the official
So,
explanation.
okay, no worries.
There
no
is
worries.
no official
Let's
explanation
just try this
because
differently.
there's not been a
Hold on,
response.
hold on, Alan. So do you accept that it is necessary to account for the very real fact that things get smaller into the distance when calculating out an observation? Is it therefore necessary? Because you're denying that you're saying it's not necessary. One would only assume you agree it is necessary. Correct?
No, give me the official explanation for why it's not
There is no
included.
official explanation.
I don't care
It's
why they
such a
don't include it. They
rhetorical
just
question.
don't.
It doesn't matter.
They don't include it. It doesn't matter what their explanation is.
It does, because it means that you
If
don't
somebody
understand the
stabs
logic.
somebody, you don't say, well, let's just wait for his explanation. You just understand that he stabbed them, and then you arrest them, right? That's what happens when people get stabbed. In
Worst
this
analogy
instance, he's made a mistake. He's put up an error. He's removed you from the actual observation, even though he's claiming that you can use it to match up to a photograph you have taken. That's his error. That's Mick West's error. Now, you have asserted that it is acceptable or unnecessary to include this. Are you backtracking and retracting that statement and saying it is
No,
necessary?
I'm asking you a question you have not given me an answer for. All you've done is twist my words, turn them into word salad, put on a rather big dollop of salad cream, and served it back up. Answer my question. What's
There
the
is
official
no
explanation?
official explanation. There has been
That's
no
because
response.
you don't know and you don't understand
Yeah,
the
I
logic.
do understand the official explanation. If you accept that Rumpus has the official explanation, he explained that the calculation is not performing a viewing function, even though it is used for viewing things when referenced to photographs. So it is not performing a viewing function.
Question for you, Nathan. Nathan.
Excuse me, I'm in the middle of giving you your stupid answer to your stupid nonsensical segue question, and you're interrupting me with another question. You can be damn sure I'm going to give you the answer, and then you're going to be answering my question, Alan. So shut your mouth, listen to the answer. The calculation does not perform a viewing function, even though that's what it's being used to compare to when we view things. Photography. That's what it's compared to, even though it's not performing a viewing function. Understand? That's the official explanation.
Is mix the only calculator?
Shut up! I've got a question for you. Why
Is
do you
mix the
accept that it's not necessary to include perspective when we are comparing two photographs that absolutely have perspective in them?
Is mix the only...
Stop asking me questions. I have answered your question. You haven't acknowledged my answer. Now I'm asking you something.
Is mix the only calculator?
I don't want to hear another question. I want an answer. Why do you think it is not necessary to include angular size reduction?
Well, you've still not answered my question.
I have. I've given you the official explanation. It's not performing a viewing function. The calculation's totally erroneous. Why isn't it necessary to include angular size reduction? How many times?
I think you should ask Mick.
I'm asking you. You asserted it wasn't necessary. Not Mick, you!
I didn't. That's not what I said.
You're just a liar.
So why don't you think it's included, Tony?
No, you're not getting out of this. I want you to accept that it is necessary to include the angular size reduction, or accept that, like you asserted, it isn't necessary. And if, like you asserted, it's not necessary, why isn't it necessary? Even though we observe it every time we open our eyes.
Answer the freaking question, Alan.
Answer mine.
No, I've answered your question. I'm getting tired of this. You have asserted it's not necessary to include angular size reduction when comparing two observations. Now I want you to either explain why or retract your position and side with us that it is absolutely necessary because we see it every time we open our eyes.
Answer my question first.
No. Right, that's
blame the
chance.
cannabis.
Just get out. Idiot. You don't have an explanation, you're just a wanker.
Okay. So frustrating.
Very.
I just don't understand. I mean, it's like whatever. Everybody understands in this panel. It's a simple question. He just refuses to answer it.
These people are deluded. Alan included. He gives the explanation as far as Ruhif's given it. It just isn't necessary. And beyond that, he doesn't have anything else to offer other than questions to me about the motivation of Mick West.
Right. Well, the biggest thing, I mean, is that what he's clinging on to? Like these weird erroneous points in order to cling to this ball? I just don't. There's so much evidence. Even if you removed this conversation entirely, what are you possibly holding on to? He's been on this panel dozens of times from what I've seen. Surely he's convinced in one way or another that what you guys are saying and what we're saying has some validity to it. We're not doing this.
He's just trolling. He's getting in the way.
See, that's what I was about to say. I was like, there's no way that he can be serious right now. This has to be a troll.
Yeah, that's all he is. Just a troll. And all he gave was the explanation as far as Ruhif gave. Ruhif was just basically asserting that, well, it's not in the calculation. And that's my explanation. That's my justification. It's not there. Well, why not? Well, because it's not needed. Well, why isn't it needed? Because it's not there.
Make-believe land.
Have you guys ever discussed creation on this panel?
Yeah, plenty of times.
I've only caught it in the last few weeks, so I don't remember hearing it recently, but I was just curious.
We need to convert Nathan to Christianity.
Good luck with that.
I know, right? Thanks, Arwen.
Nah.
Jesus loves you.
Arwen, do you have a religious or Christian based understanding of the world?
Oh yeah. I look on the path of Christ, definitely, but I do it in my own way.
Indeed. It's all about Christ, baby. There is no name given unto man by which you must be saved.
But what I find interesting is this whole like New World Order thing everybody's been talking about for almost a decade now, or a couple decades now, like the concept that the world would be put under one world religion. Well, I think we've found out what that is. In scientism, it's clear.
Heliocentricity.
No, it's part of it. The thing about it, the real world religion that they talk about, it is the belief that people will be forced to accept. This is still an occulted religion. This is something people truly believe, but can be persuaded against if they allow themselves to critically think about the facts and about their observations. But the real world religion, as would be forced upon the world, that's another thing.
We're saying it
People would know. The Bible even says, like, everyone will know what it is. So maybe if would be like declassified that indeed NASA and all of that would all be lies and that the Earth is actually flat, and maybe people are going to figure out what the shape actually is, then in an official capacity, that then NASA or whatever group, the deep state, the hidden ones in the shadows are going to come out and basically say, no, you are going to believe it's a globe or we're going to kill you. Then you know, okay, this is a forced religion. Then it is a world religion.
Right.
But now it's still occulted. It's like people are tricked into believing it, and it works. It's working for a long time.
So let me ask you: do you have you guys done any research on the firmament and possible dome and all that, or is it just kind of a thrown up in the air? Not sure, because obviously we can't know unless we can physically study it.
You can deduce certain details from observations, but yeah, it remains inconclusive as long as you can't actually physically measure anything. So there are signs from the visuals, from sundogs, for example, in certain conditions, that there may be something dome-alike, but there is no tangible proof that it is of a physical nature.
Well, I mean, the whole tangible proof that it even exists is my point. I know you like a lot of people like to step away from.
It definitely exists, but it's not proven that it's physical.
Right. There was a YouTuber that claims to have been I don't really know, I guess involved in NASA, involved in satellites. I'd have to find it, but I can't remember his name right now. He was talking about how flat earthers have pretty much taken the concept, but they fine, but they missed one step, and that was how they're utilizing the firmament to bounce radio waves and long bandwidth waves and all that back and forth to receiver satellites, and that's how we have our communication worldwide. And that they were doing nuclear testing with the Russians when they were launching high altitude rockets at it back in, what was it, like the 60s or something.
You mean Operation Fishbowl?
No evidence nuclear weapons exist. Seems like a hoax.
Yeah, that's why I didn't say nuclear, because I don't believe that's the case either. But
I'm still inconclusive about nuclear blasts, whatever that is. There may be something, maybe just an alternative big explosion type technology that they have falsely named nuclear bombs to make it more complicated than necessary. Because it might actually be quite easy to make those actual huge explosions, and then they wouldn't want everyone to know it, because then any crazy guy could make it, possibly. So that's maybe why nuclear bombs are a cover story, to make it more complex to do it. So not everybody can make it in their basement. It might be something like that.
Can I just ask the whole panel a question? Sorry to cut you off, Nami. So if Apollo is just a narrative of men going to the moon, which we all reject, why would you accept the fishbowl narrative? Because it's just come from the same people, right?
Or why would you accept the Jesus narrative? It's coming from the same people as well.
Right. I don't know what happened. It is said there was something they did. Could be several types of things.
You don't need evidence that Jesus actually lived. Do you? Or is that just a belief that you base on faith?
No, I don't care.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me either. I mean, I believe there's historical evidence that he has, but that's a whole other debate.
I have personal experience that on the other side, in my personal experiences that I have no physical, tangible proof of, that the name Jesus Christ is highly feared by dark ones, by non-human entities.
So are
And
nuclear
that's a
weapons.
fact to me.
So are nuclear weapons.
But don't you think that if Jesus was the truth and the Bible was all you needed, that they would have suppressed that if they were trying to control us for evil purposes? That they wouldn't have made it the most printed book of all time?
They have.
Now
So many books have been removed from it. Books that, like the Book of Enoch. Has anybody even looked into that?
That's a good point.
I mean, it's been
also they've taken it. They've taken it over. Roman Catholic Church. They took control of it. They became it. Then they tried to bend it to their will. They politicized it, and they basically took control of the book, disallowed people to read from it, and then the priests would tell them.
So that's all just more stories that we can't prove. We have no real strong evidence to believe.
Right. Primary source evidence.
It's pretty clear that the concept of religion was created by a man. This whole concept of monetizing it, and your sins can only be reprieved through a special guy who has a special connection to God that you can't possibly have, and that's proof in itself that they've taken it over. It's been hijacked, but it still doesn't deter.
There's no proof that they hijacked it. There's no proof that there was something there before it was hijacked, right? You're assuming that there was some kind of like real church that got hijacked, but maybe it was
no, there was no church.
No, there wasn't any. It was
Church is the religious institute.
I'm just saying, there's a total lack of evidence about this stuff, right?
No, there's not.
I won't. Hold on. There's an element. There's many elements of faith.
The entire
that's true.
all of
belief,
the world's religions reflect the same story in many different angles. You have the you have the Gnostic angle, comparing it to the heavenly body system. There's also all the personalized stories of Krishna, of Buddha, of all of them. It's all basically about the same type, about the same legend, about the same person.
Well, they're pretty different, actually. You can draw some parallels, but it doesn't mean that they're the same story. They're really not the same story.
No, they're not the same story. No, of course they're not the literal same story. They're all reflected in different cultures.
It's really not. It's not the same narrative. It's a totally different narrative.
It's reflected in different cultures.
You can find some parallels in many, many different stories, right? Because narrative.
Yeah, but the parallels are pretty much the same. It's the same setup.
No, it's the same. Not. It's not.
It is.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is.
Well, regardless, the concept is that it's the same. There's many different groups, but from Babylonian to Sumerian, including the Egyptians, that all have a very similar understanding of the firmament overhead. The nut over what's his name? The body figure. Anyway, like they all, even from Hebrew, all you have to do is just look back. They're all very similar in what they believed, at least as far as what the earth was like. As far as their faith or their religion, no, there are many different gods. There are many different beliefs in the afterlife, but the structure of their world were all very similar.
All pantheons basically have a Christ figure in them.
Arwen.
Nathan.
Or multiple, yeah.
Not usually the central Christ figure.
Arwen, there's 2,973 gods. Why is yours right?
It's not about who is right or wrong. It is about the path.
But okay, so if that's
about
true,
the principle,
if there's this major likeness or parallelism throughout all these religions, why does it matter which religion that you are? What puts Christianity ahead of the others? Why not just be a Buddhist?
I don't care about the religion. I follow the path of Christ.
If you'd have been born in India, would you have been a Christian?
Skype, Nath.
I would probably have become, yeah. But it's not about the book. It's not about the religion. It's about Christ. It's about the way he did things, what that means.
Well,
trying to do good, trying to do the right thing, critical thought, distinguishment, how to distinguish good from evil.
Do you think you would have heard of Christ if there hadn't been the Christian religion and the Bible, the book?
Well, if I was in India, I would probably be a follower of Krishna.
Nathan?
Nathan's probably studying. Why do you think it's not included, Tony?
We get a couple of randoms to join the panel just for the last 10 minutes so we don't get this troll playing screaming constantly. That'd be very helpful.
I thought. Right, sorted. Nathan.
Chris the wanker troll.
Hans, if you're out there.
Chris MCM. All day long.
Hey. Nathan, are you there?
I am, but I'm having to mute the hangout because we've got a troll joining constantly. So, yeah, got maybe 10 minutes of this, or I might have to round out early unless we can get a couple more people to join.
Yeah.
Yeah. Click the link in the info box below the video. If you could join the panel, it'd be very helpful right about now, just to keep the last 10 minutes of the show going, because this troll's decided that's the end of the show.
Yes, Alan.
Do you think?
No. Better.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to round out the show, guys, because I can't keep the hangout open. You know, just got a constant troll joining. Hello.
Yo.
Well, we can't have a conversation in the hangout anymore because that troll's just constantly joining, so may as well round out the show on Skype.
Just before you wound the show out on Skype, let me just finish by saying something rather pertinent. The tide's changing now. It's not us trying to prove flat anymore. It's now us beginning to laugh at these idiots. The ridicule is now flipping the other way. And some people are actually crediting us that have been against us within Flat Earth recently. Some of the more bigger pronounced, more prominent names within Flat Earth are actually crediting us because we are killing these guys, and now we're beginning to ridicule them. So I think what I want to just tell people is that the value of this show, the purpose of this show, is really to benefit the people that are coming to Flat Earth that are new to it, that have responded in some way to advertising on TV or like banners that go on the side of motorways. There's a lot of new faces in Flat Earth at the moment, and they're all coming in from somewhere, wherever that is coming in from. The reason for this show is because of them people are thinking that we live in a ball, but now we're able to start laughing at these people that push the nonsense. Not only are they being battered, but now they're beginning to get ridiculed. And the value to this show is that people that come into it from the outside and that have not been in here before are now seeing that these ballers are getting battered, totally battered. So I think maybe we should change our focus a little bit now and focus more on the new people that are coming in, because these current crop of current baller protagonists, they're done. Do you want to round out, Nath?
We can have a few more minutes more if you want. I think Rufus joined the panel just to keep off the trolls, so I can actually unmute the hangout now.
What's up,
Answer
Rufus?
my question, Nathan.
You didn't answer my question.
Answer mine. I asked first.
I answered. I
Yeah, but
answered
you
your
started
question,
with an
then you gave me a
insertion
new
now.
question and didn't answer mine. So you've just got a barrage of scattergun questions, ignoring my question. So I'll ask you the same question I asked that you ignored of me.
Now answer mine.
I answered yours and said what the answer was. It's not a viewing function that is being performed on that calculation. That is the answer to your question. Why? Well, because the calculation's not a viewing function. Now my question, which is, do you accept that we must account for an angular size reduction because as soon as you open your eyes in the morning, you observe that things get smaller in the distance? Do you accept that? Or, as you asserted earlier, do you reiterate that it is not necessary to account for this angular size reduction at distance?
Are we talking about Mick West's calculator here?
You asserted that it wasn't necessary. You've
No, I
denied
didn't.
it. So I'm trying to get clarity on your position, Alan. Now, whether or not you said it or misspoke, that's fine. I just need clarity.
Bullshit answer.
No,
Sorry,
you did.
we just need some clarity before we round out the show. Do you accept that you need to account for angular
twisted
size
Oh, the
reduction?
feedback.
You twisted the question.
Just going to dance around it, Alan. Do you accept that you
Are
need
we talking about Mick?
Every time I ask the question, you start talking over me, Alan. You're just a troll. There's a question I've got. I've answered your question, and you're just obfuscating it. Is it because you don't know the answer, Alan?
No, I know the answer.
Well, then answer. Is it necessary to account for
No,
angular size change, or is it not
No,
necessary?
you're just twisting the question.
That's a simple question. Is it
Alan,
necessary or
if
isn't
you're gonna red
it?
herring us, just go to the harbor, okay? And just go fishing there.
What? Can't you hear him twisting the question?
It's a simple question. Is it necessary to account for angular size reduction or not? Simple question.
With regards to Mick West's calculator?
That's not my question. Why are you obfuscating my question continually, Alan? Is it because this is a tricky point for you? Don't know which way to go. Don't know whether to answer yes or no, right? Simple question.
No, I
yes
don't.
or no answer.
No,
is
I
it
know what the
necessary
answer-
or
the
isn't it?
answer is.
Is it necessary or isn't it? Yes or no? Simple question. Closed.
Answer my question
Yes
first,
or
you
no
still
answer. So why are you obfuscating it? I don't mind obfuscating it for another hour with you.
Come on then.
Well,
you
answer
wanna
my
do-
question. Is it necessary to account for angular size change or not?
Answer my question first.
Okay, we'll play your game. I'll do it your way. What's your question?
Why do you think it's not included?
Because it's not performing a viewing function.
Look, Alan, nobody can answer for his.
I've answered you. Now am I going to get an answer, Alan? I've answered your question, haven't I?
Your answer's no.
My answer, so it's not necessary. Your answer is it is no, it is not necessary to include
Correct.
the angular size change, correct?
Correct.
Why is it not necessary to include something that every single person with a set of eyeball observes every single time they open their eyes? Why is it not necessary to include that? Answer me, you stupid man! Why is it not necessary to account for something that everybody observes every single time they open their eyes?
Nathan, you give him what he wants.
It's a waste of
Alan
time
is,
entertaining this.
I think you
I
should
think
ask
Alan
Mick
is
West.
soliciting.
Alan, everyone else,
final
shut your
appearance of
mouths.
the show.
Shut your mouth, Arwin.
That's the red herring.
No, Globe, can you shut up? Alan, why is it not necessary to include a function that is observed by absolutely everybody who is not blind?
What kind of view is he using, Nathan?
Eyeballs. Camera.
On the model, what kind of view is he
Not
using?
model. What the hell are you talking about?
Talking about Mick West calculator.
No,
What-
I'm talking about
what view is he
incorporating
using?
the angular size change when calculating for curvature. Any calculation, not Mick West's. Wiggles can come on and do his own version. I'm saying, is it necessary to include angular size change when making a calculation of an observation? Does it need to be included? Yes or no? You're saying no. I'm now saying why not?
Because it's not necessary.
We observe it every time we open our eyes.
Because it's not necessary means you're reasserting the position. What's the reason for it not being necessary?
Because it isn't.
That's not an answer.
It's not.
That's a Ruhif answer, a drunk man's answer.
not
Why
drunk.
isn't it
Well, they had one
necessary?
gin, you
An
cheap-
explanation is required, dumbass.
You're so rude.
Yeah, because you're a retard. I'm sick of dealing with you globehead retards, so as Anthony's just told the audience, as we got trolled to all hell, we're going to start ridiculing you retards. Yeah? This is obvious. A child would understand this, that things get smaller into the distance. Why on earth wouldn't you account for it? And you're saying because it's not necessary. Well, why isn't it necessary? Because it isn't. Is this the level of your intelligence, moron? Answer me, Alan, you dick. Is that it?
Alan,
Laughter. That's the best you've got. You don't have an explanation for why the obvious nature of our world, the fact that we live in a perspective-driven world, is not necessary to be accounted for according to this complete retard.
Okay, then, Nathan, account for it with using the sun.
Sun
What
is
are you
not a
talking
tangible
about?
object.
We're making observations of mountains and lighthouses. Things that have been used with these calculations. Do you understand that, you idiot? You've been on these panels. Have you also got a memory deficiency as well as a retardation?
I demand you use the sun.
The sun
I don't
is-
care what you demand. You're a fantasist. You're a globehead with a religious belief. Your demands mean nothing.
I demand you use the sun.
I don't care what you demand. You've just been asked why you justify not including something that every person on the plane experiences the moment they open their eyes, or the moment a camera presses its shutter, or anybody videotapes anything ever. You assert that that's not necessary to account for, and I assert it's because you're stupid. You're thick.
Oh, come on, come on, come on.
No,
He is. He's stupid.
Absolutely deserves this.
Nathan,
Well, it
can
doesn't
I just
worry
say-
me.
It should
Can I just
worry
say-
you. Your stupidity should concern you greatly. Should concern all of you globeheads. Because all of you will receive this treatment when you come here and say things like, it's not necessary to account for the very obvious nature of our world. Why would I need to account for the fact that when I see a cow that's in the distance, it looks similar to a toy cow in my hand? I don't need to account for that. Why not? Well, because Mick West says it's not in the calculation, therefore not necessary. That's
Nathan,
the kind of sheep
Is there a different-
you are.
Is there a different rule for the sun? Is there a different rule?
Yeah, it's
What
not
is the
on
sun?
the Earth.
What is it? We don't know what it
You
is.
don't even know how.
I know what a
big-
lighthouse is. It's
It's
bricks and
visible.
mortar at a fixed distance. The sun, I don't know what it is, Alan. Does that answer your question?
You don't know what it is.
No.
Yeah, neither do you.
No, correct. So does that answer
Nathan,
your
he's
question,
not
Alan?
going to give you. He's
Does
not
that
going to give
answer
you a
your
straight
question,
answer.
Alan?
What do you think the sun is? A roast
This
chicken?
is not your opportunity to segue into the sun. This is my opportunity to point out to my audience
pointing out-
how stupid you really are. Something that a 5-year-old would understand, that things in the distance get smaller. You are asserting on this show it's not necessary to calculate for. And I'm asserting that that's because you're stupid.
But you don't know why.
I do know why. It's necessary because everybody on God's green earth observes
God.
perspective when they open their eyes. They also observe it when they press the button on a camera. They also observe it when they film it. Perspective is a very real way of life, Alan. You deny it. You would rather deny it for a presuppositional value of R. You deny reality and substitute presupposition because you're
Yeah,
a
you're
sheep.
moving away from the sun
Because
question.
you're a
though.
moron. We don't know what the sun is. We've already asserted that. I asked you if you were satisfied with my answer and got silence.
No, it wasn't.
You asked us what we thought it was.
Why is there a different rule for the sun then?
Because we don't know what it is. I'll ask again.
Because
Do
you
you
don't know-
understand my answer? You don't know what the sun is. You have never been there. I don't know what the sun is. I've never been there. No one on the panel knows what the sun is. It is an intangible object. Unlike a lighthouse, which we do use calculations to prove that we're on a sphere Earth, to morons who would rather reject the reality of perspective, because apparently it's not necessary if you're a retard like Alan, and would rather substitute a non-proven value of R. That's what
Word
kind of a
salad and
sheep...
just moving away from my question.
No, we've told... Your answer is we don't know what the sun is. I know what a lighthouse is. It's bricks and mortar. I know the distance. It's very tangible. The sun is not tangible. Therefore, measuring intangible objects is the thing of fantasists like you. Me, on the other hand,
Why do
I
you need to
can
know what
measure...
the sun is to work out perspective?
We don't know what it is.
Why do you need to know?
Because that's what tangibility gives you, you stupid little man. Let's get back to the very real perspective that we
answer the
observe
question. Why
and
do you need to
don't
know what it
calculate
is?
for. Why do
You don't know what it is and how big it is and how can
R
you measure
to
it,
reality?
you idiot?
Perspective. Why is it that you substitute perspective for a fictional R value, Alan?
Answer the question. Why do you need to know?
I'm asking you a question. You've asserted that we no longer need to account for perspective. So I'm asking you why you substitute something that we all account for and see in day-to-day life, perspective, things getting smaller, something you deny and say isn't necessary. Why is it you would rather have a presuppositional, non-proven value of R rather than the reality of perspective? Why do you substitute one for the other, Alan?
Answer my question.
What's your question?
Why do you need to know what the sun is?
Because that's what tangibility is. Look up tangibility. It is an intangible object. We don't know what it is. We don't know how far it is. We know nothing about it. Unlike the lighthouse example, unlike the bridge example, unlike the St. Bees example, any of these examples that people have photographed and can repeat.
If you're going to measure something, then you have
That's all right. I don't mind going on for another hour with Alan, asking him repeatedly why he denies the nature of reality. Perspective is in reality, and yet Alan says it's not necessary.
Arwin.
Not Arwin. My name's Nathan, and you will address me until you give a decent answer. Until then, I'm going to expose you as a religious zealot and a fantasist, Alan.
A cloud's tangible.
Yeah. Well, are you going to measure it then?
How can clouds be tangible and the sun not?
Because you can go and touch them. You can travel through them. I've been through clouds in an aeroplane.
Yeah, you can approach them. They won't stay at the edge of your vision.
You're mental.
There's a better target. There is a better target. We've got Sean Hufford in chat, who claims he's putting together an experiment that will show that orthographic view and observer view will net the same result for angular size. Now, GeoStreamer and Sean did a presentation the other night.
Sorry, just got to interrupt immediately, Anthony, because who cares? They don't account for the angular size in the metabund calculation. So it doesn't matter if you can net the same result from each. They don't account for it.
Well, all I want you to be aware of is that Sean claims, and Sean's position is, that you will yield the same result, the net same result for orthographic view as observer view. And I'd like to call bullshit on that claim.
No,
you don't,
because
the orthographic view does not reduce the size.
Sean.
Pardon?
There you go.
It doesn't account for angular size change. That's the difference. Correct. That's the point. It maintains the height of the mountain. When Ruhif shows us his 4 lines on screen, they're all the same size. Yeah? That's the whole point. The mountain doesn't decrease in size like it does in your camera when you photograph it at distance, Sean.
Alan wins.
No, Alan, you are the dumbest person on this panel at the moment. You think it's not necessary to include the very real nature of things getting smaller in the distance. Yeah, it doesn't seem to matter how many times I give you the Father Ted retard explanation for this cow is far away and this cow is small. You still seem to think it's not necessary function. That's because you're stupid.
I won though, didn't I?
Yeah, do you understand your stupidity yet? This is the problem, Dunning-Kruger syndrome. Stupid people often don't recognise how stupid they really are because they lack the intelligence to recognise their own stupidity.
Besides anything, Nathan.
That's you, Alan. You are that stupid person. We have explained to you repeatedly ad nausea that things in the distance get smaller, yet you have asserted on this panel to hundreds of people that it's not necessary. Yeah? That makes you a complete retard.
Not what I asked.
Doesn't matter what you asked. We are asserting this. It's the point of the show today. We are telling you that objects in the distance get smaller, and we are telling you that that is not accounted for on your bullshit fantasy maths. We're telling you. I'm not asking for anything. I'm telling you. I am telling you, a retard, that perspective is real, and you don't account for it when you beg the question and assume that you're on a sphere. And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you hated the show, you know exactly what to do. But if you like the show, consider sharing it. Maybe subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!